You can still buy a Toyota for under $20,000 in 2026, and there are about a dozen of them worth your attention right now, quietly sitting at prices nobody announced and no dealer put on a banner. Nothing got discounted in the way a mattress gets discounted. What happened is slower and more useful than that. Certain Toyotas drifted down through that 20,000 line over the last year and a half while the market around them went the other way. The average used vehicle in this country listed for right around 27,000 this spring, up about 6% on the year, and the highest it's been since the middle of 2023. So the ceiling went up, the average went up, and these 12 went down. That gap is the whole video. I've been the guy people call before they buy. Couple of hundred pre-purchase inspections on cars in exactly this price band, and I'd guess I've told about 1 in 5 buyers to walk away from the car they'd already fallen for. That's where all of this comes from. A flashlight, a scan tool, and a screwdriver I use for tapping rocker panels, which tells you more in 10 seconds than a listing tells you in 10 photos. Here's what you're getting from me. All 12 with real numbers as they stand in mid-2026. For each one, what the discount is actually paying for, because a cheap Toyota is never cheap by accident, and the specific thing to check before money changes hands. One of these 12 carries a promise from Toyota that ran to about $3.5 billion. That promise had a deadline written into it in a way most owners never noticed, and the deadline has now passed on every single truck it covered. I'll read you the number that decided who got helped and who didn't. It's 0.4 of an inch. Start with why the 20,000 line exists at all, because it isn't a valuation. It's a search filter. Everyone shopping online sets a maximum, and that maximum is almost always a round number. So cars get priced to duck underneath it rather than priced to describe their condition. 19,995 is not a mechanical statement. It's a marketing decision made by whoever owns that car this month. Meanwhile, the interesting thing in the data is that the under 20,000 slice of the market is actually thinning. Cox Automotive noted that inventory and sales below $20,000 fell while the pricier stuff moved better. Fewer cheap cars, more people wanting them. That's the room you're walking into, and the running question through all 12 of these is the same one. What is this discount paying for? Because something is always buying it down. Sometimes it's a body style nobody wants photographed in their driveway. Sometimes it's a fear that turns out to be cheaper to fix than the fear suggests. And sometimes it's a genuine bill waiting for you. Number 1. The Corolla, roughly 2019 through 2022. This is the safe answer, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. RepairPal puts its average annual repair cost around $360 and ranks it first out of 36 compact cars for reliability, which is less a bragging point than a description of what these things do. Nothing. They do nothing for years. From 2020, the 12th generation car brought a proper independent rear suspension and the 2-liter engine option, and it drives noticeably better than the one before it, which nobody expected from a Corolla and which Toyota mostly didn't advertise. What's the discount paying for? Almost nothing. That's the point. A Corolla in this window sits under $20,000 because it's a small sedan with mileage on it, not because there's a landmine under the hood. Compare it against a new one, though, and the case gets sharper. Sources disagree on the base price of the 2026 Corolla depending on how they treat the destination charge. One puts the LE just over $23,000, another closer to $24,000. I'll use the higher figure because you're going to pay destination whether or not the website mentions it. Either way, you are looking at a difference of $5,000 or more for a car that will feel about 85% the same on the drive home. 2. The Camry, 2018 through 2020, the 8th generation car, and in my view, the best mainstream sedan Toyota has built. Listings tell the story better than averages do. I've seen a 2018 SE with 63,000 miles asked at just under $19,700, and a 2022 SE with 82,000 miles marked down to just under $20,000. That second one is the interesting number because a 4-year-old Camry under $20,000 did not exist a couple of years ago. The 2.5 here is smooth, direct injected, mated to an 8-speed, and it will run to 200,000 miles with fluid changes and nothing exotic. Consumer Reports has been handing this generation top marks for years. 2 cautions, one of them a warning about drifting down market. If you keep sliding down the Camry price ladder, you eventually land in the 2007 to 2011 cars with the older 2AZFE 4-cylinder, and those have a documented appetite for oil. Toyota issued a service bulletin about it back in 2011 and changed the piston assembly. Sit with the test procedure a moment. The dealer marks your dipstick, sends you off for 1,200 miles, and only covers the repair if the engine is more than a quart down when you come back. A quart every 1,200 miles was the line. That's not a repair policy. It's a threshold. And remember it, we're coming back to thresholds. The other caution applies to the good ones. These years fall inside the Denso fuel pump recall, so the VIN check isn't optional. 3. The Corolla hatchback 2019 to 2021. Same bones as the sedan, better shape, a manual if you hunt for one, and a rear seat that punishes adults. It undercuts the sedan slightly because families won't take it. If you don't carry people in the back, that is free money, and there is nothing else to say about it. 4. The RAV4 2016 through 2018. The last of the 4th generation cars, and this is where the price line falls now. Kelley Blue Book has a 2017 sitting around $15,000 for resale value and a 2018 around $16,300, with dealer asking prices on clean 2017s spanning roughly $16,000 to $19,000 depending on trim. The 2019 redesign has gone the other way. In a lot of markets, a decent one is asking north of $24,000. What you're buying is the simpler machine. Naturally aspirated 2.5, a 6-speed automatic, no continuously variable transmission to have opinions about, and available all-wheel drive that works honestly on wet roads without pretending to be a rock crawler. What the discount pays for is age and looks. What I check is the rear suspension for corrosion if the car lived where they salt roads, and the brake booster on the earlier cars. 5. The CHR 2018 to 2021. Averaging around 18,200 used. It looks like a concept car and drives like a very slow shoe. 144 horsepower, no all-wheel drive in this market, and rear visibility that made a genuine safety argument for the blind spot monitor. It will be reliable, and it will bore you. I mention it because it's cheap and honest about what it is. 6. The Highlander, 2015 through 2017. In several big markets, a 2016 averages just over $17,000 and a 2017 not much more, which for a 3-row V6 family SUV is the kind of number that makes me look twice at the listing. The 3.5 V6 in these is the good one. An engine family that has been dropped into everything Toyota builds for 2 decades. Tow rating around 5,000 pounds. 3rd row that's fine for children and a lie for adults. The discount here is paying for 2 things. Mileage, because these were bought by families who use them, and the fact that a 9 or 10-year-old crossover has 0 showroom appeal. Check the water pump for weeping, and on the V6, look for a wet spot on the timing cover area. The older versions of this engine family used a rubber section and an oil line that Toyota eventually addressed with a metal line, and it's the kind of thing that shows up as a stain long before it shows up as a problem. 6 down, 6 to go, and you're still with me. Noted and thank you. If this is doing what I hoped it does, the subscribe button is right there, and it costs you nothing. Number 7 is a van most people won't consider. Number 8 is the biggest bargain on this entire list, and it isn't close, and the one after that is the car everybody's scared of for a reason that turns out to be about $1,000. 7. The Sienna, 2015 to 2018. Third generation van, 3.5 V6, and depending on which city you're in, a 2016 is averaging anywhere from about $16,000 to just over $19,000. Houston at the low end, Washington at the top. That regional spread is bigger than any spread on this list, so it genuinely pays to look 2 states over. This is the pick I'd argue with strangers about. You get sliding doors, a flat load floor, seating for 7 or 8, available all-wheel drive, and running costs closer to a Camry than to anything with 3 rows and a truck badge. What the discount pays for is entirely social. Nobody wants to be a minivan person. The real bills to price before you buy. Those power sliding doors are motors and cables and rollers, and out of pocket they hurt. Front struts and strut mounts wear as a consumable on these, so treat them as scheduled rather than surprising. Pull the 3rd row out and look at the wells with a light. That's where water goes to hide. 8. The Avalon, 2016 through 2018, and this is the one. The average used Avalon across all years is trading around $17,200, roughly 40% below the average used car in America. Kelley Blue Book has a 2017 at about $14,100 for resale, and a 2018 around $15,700. So for the price of a leggy Corolla, you're buying the car Toyota built when it wanted to prove it could do quiet. Understand what this is. Same 3.5 V6 and 6-speed as the Highlander, in a lower, lighter, better insulated body. Acoustic glass, multi-link rear end. A back seat with limousine legroom. Toyota engineered these for a buyer who drove long distances and disliked being reminded of it. And everything about the car follows from that one decision. The suspension tuning, the throttle mapping, the fact that at 70 miles an hour you can talk without raising your voice. Now, why is it cheap? Here I'm giving you my read rather than a reported fact. The Avalon fell because full-size sedans stopped signaling anything. Nobody's aspiration in 2026 is a large, comfortable car. The aspiration is a raised ride height and a badge. The engineering didn't get worse, and the reliability record didn't crack. The desire evaporated, and price follows desire, not quality. That's the whole mechanism of this list in one paragraph. There's a practical cost to it too, which I'd be dishonest to skip. Cheap to buy is not cheap to own, and on a car like this, the difference shows up in tires. 19-inch wheels on the touring trims wear expensive rubber. Fuel economy is decent for the size, not clever. Parts are shared with the Camry and the Highlander, so nothing is exotic, but a set of struts on a heavy sedan is still a set of struts on a heavy sedan. If you drive real distances for work, this is the highest ratio of comfort per dollar available in the American used market right now. I don't say that about many things. 9. The Prius, 2016 to 2019. 4th generation car, averaging around $17,000 across all years used, with plenty of examples well under that. 50 plus miles per gallon in real driving, not brochure driving. Everyone's scared of the same thing, so let's price it. A dealer replacement pack in 2026 runs somewhere from about $3,500 to over $5,000 installed. A reconditioned or rebuilt pack from a hybrid specialist typically lands between roughly $1,400 and $3,000, depending on warranty length. So the worst case that terrifies people is a mid-four-figure bill, and the common case is closer to the price of a transmission service on a German car. Where I have less standing, I can quote what those rebuilt packs cost, but I can't tell you with confidence how long a given rebuilt pack lasts, because the answer depends on who assembled it and how they match the modules, and the industry doesn't publish honest failure data. Anyone who gives you a single number for that is guessing. Buy the warranty length, not the promise. Safety note, if you go poking around one yourself, the orange cables are orange for a reason. That's a couple of 100 volts of direct current, and it does not care about your experience. Service plug out, gloves on, or hand it to somebody who does this daily. 10. The Yaris IA 2017 to 2020, averaging around 12,400. It's a Mazda underneath wearing a Toyota badge. It's tiny, and it steers better than it has any right to. Cheapest way onto this list, and if all you need is to get to work for 4 more years, it's the sane answer. Older plain Yaris models average nearer 8,500, and I'd want a very good look at one first. 11. The Tacoma. This is where the list gets complicated because the Tacoma barely depreciates. A clean 2015 is averaging just over 21,000, above where a new one started. So a Tacoma under $20,000 in 2026 means one of two things: a 2012 to 2014 second-generation truck, or a higher mileage 2015 that somebody drove properly. Mechanically, the second generation is the one people keep. The 4-liter V6 in those is agricultural in the best sense, the electronics are minimal, and 180,000 miles is a middle-aged truck rather than a finished one. When I go look at one, I spend maybe 2 minutes on the engine and 20 minutes underneath. And I'll tell you exactly why in a moment. Worth knowing before you shop, the 2016 and 2017 trucks that started the third generation had a rear differential recall covering around 228,000 vehicles for a gasket that could leak enough oil to damage or seize the diff. There was also a leaf spring recall on 2005 to 2011 pre-runner and four-wheel drive trucks, where a leaf could fracture from stress and corrosion and, in the worst case, reach the fuel tank. Both had remedies. Both depend entirely on whether a previous owner ever bothered. 12. The Sequoia, 2011 through 2013. I've seen a 2012 Platinum with 204,000 miles asked at $13,250, and a 2011 Limited with 186,000 at just under $14. Full-size, body-on-frame, V8, 8 seats, independent rear suspension, so the third row is actually usable. The mileage frightens people off, which is what makes the number possible. These engines are not tired at 200,000 miles. They're broken in. If you want the same thinking in a smaller package, a 4th-generation 4Runner from the mid-2000s lands in similar territory, but understand that a clean 5th-generation 4Runner under 20,000 doesn't really exist in 2026. The average used 4Runner across the market is over 36,000. Now the part I promised you, and it's about those trucks. In late 2016, Toyota settled a federal class action over frames that rusted through. About 1.5 million vehicles were covered. Tacomas from 2005 to 2010, Tundras from 2007 and 2008, Sequoias from 2005 to 2008. The value of the settlement was put at roughly $3.4 billion, built on an estimate of about 225,000 frame replacements at around $15,000 apiece, plus about $60 a truck for inspections. Toyota admitted no wrongdoing. Here's the sentence that matters to you. You got a new frame if rust had perforated the metal by 10 millimeters or more, 4/10 of an inch. If the hole was smaller than that, you got the frame cleaned and a corrosion-resistant compound applied, and you went home. Nobody asked you where that line should sit. You weren't in the room. Somebody worked out what fraction of 1.5 million trucks would clear a 10-millimeter threshold versus an 8, and what each increment cost at $15,000 a frame, and the number that came out the other side became your entitlement. That's not a conspiracy. It's arithmetic done by people whose job is to do that arithmetic, and the reason it lands as an insult is that the metal doesn't care about 10 millimeters. A frame that's perforated at all is a frame that's rusting from the inside, and everybody involved knew that. Cleaning and coating a rotting box section is the automotive equivalent of painting over damp. Then there's the clock. The obligation to inspect ran 12 years from the day each truck was first sold or leased. Do that on your fingers. A 2010 Tacoma delivered in the autumn of 2009 aged out around 2021. The last trucks in that settlement ran out of coverage years ago, which is precisely when they arrived in the price bracket you're shopping in. Every one of those trucks is now a truck where the frame is your problem, priced against a repair that was valued at $15,000 when Toyota was paying for it, on a truck worth $18,000. So when you're standing in front of a cheap Tacoma this weekend and the seller tells you it's solid, understand that solid was defined for that truck by a settlement you never read, measured with a tool you don't have by a dealer who no longer has any obligation to look. Take your own screwdriver. Tap the frame rails behind the rear wheels, tap the cross members, and if the handle goes in, walk, no matter how good the interior is. And ask for the inspection record. Some of those trucks were inspected and documented, and that piece of paper is worth real money now. You know the number now. 4/10 of an inch and a 12-year clock. That's not going to work on you again. Something I've come to believe after enough of these inspections. The skill you actually want isn't knowing which 12 Toyotas are cheap this year. That list changes, and by next spring, half these prices will have moved. The skill is judgment, the ability to stand in a stranger's driveway, look at a machine, and form your own view of it that doesn't depend on the seller, the listing, the badge, or the brand's reputation. That skill is unusual in a couple of ways. It's cheap to acquire. A flashlight, a screwdriver, a few hours of reading about the specific model, and the willingness to lie on cold concrete. And it never depreciates. Every car you inspect makes you better at the next one. And unlike almost everything else you can buy, it can't be taken back, expired, revised, or capped at 4/10 of an inch. Reputation is a rumor about a car. Judgment is a look at the car. One of those you can outsource, and the other one you can't. And the second is the only one that's ever saved me money. Right? The practical summary. The 12, briefly. Corolla 2019 to 2022. The default. Camry 2018 to 2020, the best all-round car here. Corolla hatchback if you don't carry adults. RAV4 2016 to 2018 for the simpler drivetrain. CHR if looks matter more than pace. Highlander 2015 to 2017 for 3 rows and a V6. Sienna 2015 to 2018 if you can get past the shape. Avalon 2016 to 2018, the biggest gap between what it costs and what it is. Prius 2016 to 2019, once you've priced the battery honestly. Yaris IA is the cheapest sane entry. Tacoma 2012 to 2014 with the frame checked properly. Sequoia 2011 to 2013 if you need the size and can ignore a big odometer. Now the procedure, because a rule of thumb won't help you and this will. 4 steps. Run on the actual car. Step 1. Get the VIN before you drive anywhere and run it through the Federal Recall Lookup and Toyota's own recall page. Free. Takes 2 minutes. And it tells you whether the fuel pump work and everything else was ever completed on that specific vehicle. This matters more than usual here. The Denso low-pressure pump recall covered more than 3 million vehicles in the United States, and the model list kept expanding for years afterwards. So the totals you'll read vary depending on when the article was written. The VIN doesn't vary. Step 2. Price the 3 most likely repairs for that exact model and year. Not all the repairs. The 3 that model is known for. The sliding door motor, the strut mounts, the water pump, the battery pack, the frame. Get real local numbers. Step 3. Add those 3 to the asking price. That's the true number. Step 4. Compare that true number against the next car up. The newer, more expensive one you were also considering. If your total lands within about 10% of the better car, buy the better car. And if the known deferred work comes to more than roughly a fifth of the asking price, either take it off the price in cash or walk away. Sellers who won't move on documented priced work are telling you something about the rest of the car's history. You can start tonight. Pick one listing, copy the VIN out of it, run it through the recall lookup, and read what comes back. 15 minutes from now, you'll know something about that specific vehicle that the person selling it almost certainly doesn't. And you'll never look at these listings the same way again. I want to hear where you're watching from, and I mean specifically, because this list changes shape depending on where you live. Salt states versus dry states is the difference between a Tacoma frame being a footnote and being the whole decision. Tell me your region and what the roads do to metal there. And tell me what the oldest Toyota still working in your driveway is, and how many miles are on it. I read the replies properly. It's honestly the part of this I look forward to. And if you've spent your working life under these things, and I got something wrong tonight, say so plainly. I'd rather be corrected in public than repeat it. One thread I deliberately left alone. Toyota's transmission fluid, and what the word lifetime is doing in that sentence. I've asked technicians, I've read the manuals, I've had the pans off, and I still get 3 different answers from 3 people who all know more than me about it. I'm going to keep pulling on that one until it comes loose. If you want to be there when it does, subscribe. Until then, take the flashlight, tap the frame, and don't fall in love before the inspection.